Until they came up out my forest, they looked into my room. I was only 4 years old, I didn't know what to do. I was playing muscle man with a friend, I think the dude was named Vernon. He saw the M16s and stepped away from the curtains, and they kicked in the door. This is the DEA. They saw my father, and then they fucked up his face, and they cruised up the stairs with their M16s. They busted into my room and scared the fuck out of me. I saw my mama, I said, what the fuck's happening? She said, we're busted. I said, what the fuck does that mean? She said, for growing the weed under the basement floor. I said, the plant that dad smoked. She said, but there's more. They're gonna take up our house, they're gonna take all your toys, they're gonna take away data, they're gonna put them in bars, they're gonna take all our money, they're gonna take all your cake. The next day was my birthday, I'm not being fake. These motherfuckers, they're called the DEA, they're called the CIA, they're called the NSA, and today they listen to everything that you say, but you don't give a fuck, you just go about your day. You're they keep a fire on everyone and we pretend that we're dumb. We sell all our metadata, it's worth more than a sum, but they don't give us back none because they know that we're numb. We got some stupid motherfuckers that just want to be safe, and they'll give up their freedoms, man, they'll give up their say. They'll spend $1 million on education just to join up the slaves. You're not American. Thought.
Hey, and he's off to the races.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to Dangerous Thoughts. That was Click Tight bringing us in there. As usual, fucking Click Tight, man. What an amazing fucking group. Hip-hop extraordinaire. I mean, like hip-hop to the... Do you people that are listening even understand how big Click Tight's going to be? Go follow at Click Tight, CLICTYT, everywhere. Their first album is dropping in like 6 weeks, and they're amazing. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Manu Entereme. This is my co-host. Open mouth, open it. No, not that way. The other way.
Hello, everybody. God,
Sideways.
I have
Sideways.
Oh, hold on. I know what he wants. Hold on.
There you go. Yeah. Oh. That was fantastic. Okay, so
Ridiculous.
So tonight we have a guest, and she's wonderful, but she's about as tech savvy as I am. So she's trying to figure out how to come on the show, and hopefully
she's here.
Got the camera working.
She's here.
Oh, she's here. Cool. She's in the back, and she's here already. That's wonderful.
She's giving you the finger right now.
I love it. I'll give it right back to you. Take that, Lesley. No, but she's
Feel
wonderful.
the love. Feel the love.
I want to tell you a little bit about her, which is totally off formula, but Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is a Toronto-based certified clinical hypnotherapist who specializes in a number of modalities. What a cool word that is, right? Modalities. What's that mean, Tyson?
Different modes. Thank you. I'm here all night. Here all night.
Including working with individuals who feel that they have had experiences with extra-terrestrial beings. Most of this fascinating work, as well as metaphysical therapies such as past life and interlife regression, I'll ask her about interlife regression, I don't know what that is, takes place at Lesley's Toronto hypnosis clinic, Lightwork Hypnosis. Prior to her work in hypnotherapy, Lesley also had a busy career as an actor, a dancer, a vocalist, and for the past 20 years, she's also been a top jazz and arts media consultant with an array of Grammy and JUNO-winning clients, as well as major jazz festivals and record labels. That's super cool. I didn't know that about her. Lesley is currently the director of LMC Media, with offices both in Toronto at Lesley's home and in Lesley's hometown of New York City, where she lives. She is also a busy arts writer, contributing regularly to a variety of publications, and we can talk about her more later in the show. But I'm really excited to have her. But let's go back to what are you doing with your cat, Tyson?
Only game in the world that can't get rid of pussy. Go.
I know. Would you get the pussy off the camera? It's ew. Just ew. So what's been happening this week? Is there anything important you think we should talk about?
Well, one, I want to thank Mala so much for covering last week. I did go back and watch the show. Some chick. And you know, an amazing show. You guys did a great job it was fantastic. I felt loved and beat up all at the same time. I just, roller coaster of emotions.
You sound like an actor that's like trying to get interviewed about the actor they worked with that they hated on their film.
You love me. You really love me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a fantastic show. I watched it a little bit and I felt like I came off like an absolute prick. But
this show,
right?
What's fun about this show is that you come off as an absolute prick.
Yeah, that's what is. That's what.
No. What's fun about this show? It's just fun. It's fun. It's being real. It's engaging. I love it. I love our guests are just the spectrum. Some of them are on the spectrum, but it's just wonderful. I love the show.
No, can I tell you something? You sent me a few books of our guests, a few books that some of our guests have written a few days ago.
Michelle, Karen,
yeah. And I opened that gift and I've always had respect for our guests and for the people that are diving into these fringe sciences that we like to talk about a lot. But when I saw those books and I realized that I hadn't read them, I hadn't taken the time to even order them. I went, man, I need to become a better host. I need to read these people's books. I need to, and my respect for them as individuals, having written novels, having like Lesley, she's studied this phenomenon for 12, 15 years, something like that. It's pretty amazing stuff. And even though it's fringe science, it's freaking interesting. I don't know. I gained a huge respect for all of our guests over the years, except for that one guy. He was a total dick.
Are we going to his house? I think we're doing a show there.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. Not that I know who you're talking about, but
I'm talking about David. I'm talking about the ghost house guy. That, he's a total prick and he knows it, and it's all right. He'll still let us in. So last night was the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That was last night, I think.
I want to watch that so bad. I love the White House Correspondents' Dinners. They're always hilarious.
You would.
Always. And I missed it.
God.
I missed it.
What
do you mean? It's hilarious. You can in what was it, 2004, when George Bush and George Bush's double, both at the podium, going back and forth. Hysterical.
Honestly,
I loved it.
Yeah, without Saturday Night Live's participation, that would be like the Oscars, except 100 times more boring. Excuse me. But what a horrible job those poor people have, those White House reporters. Oh, I couldn't do that. Risking their lives flying on Air Force One and eating that crap food and getting crammed into that little room every day where they have to fight to ask some representative of the president's representative of the president's representative of the president's representative. And then they ask questions. Yeah, how horrible would that be? You got your little snack and you're probably hanging out with like people from high school that like really thought that they were cool and they still think they're cool because they work at the White House and they're like, yeah, I got, we're all so special that we get to be in this stinky little room. It just sounds like and then you get to ask a question. If you get picked, you get to ask a question that you don't get a real answer to. And then you have to go write up, a report on that non-answer. I think that's a horrible job. So I think I'm thinking that most of those reporters, like this is the thing they have to look forward to every year that's not depressing in their lives.
But it pays $1 million a year. So, I mean.
Does it really?
If you're a White House press pool, where you're the main representative of Fox or MSNBC or CNN, and you're the main correspondent doing that.
They let Fox in there?
Bank. Yes, they let Fox in there. I do.
No, it's all right. I can't believe I hate all commercial media. So slanted.
They all work for the same people.
They all work for the same people. And it's all this like, hey, let me tell you how to think slanted nonsense. The world is getting so weird. That's one of the jokes that I really liked. I forget the guy's name, but he does the news on Saturday Night Live. And he has bred with Scarlett.
What's his name?
Joss something or other. But he bred with Scarlett Johansson. Famous guy, funny guy, but
Colin Jost and the other one, I forget his
right.
name.
Well, Colin Jost did the little, like, at the end of the dinner, the comedian comes on and makes people laugh after the president tells his jokes. And the thing about it to me was that his jokes were great, but they were so true and they were sad. They were so true that it was scary. For instance, let's see, what was one of his jokes? Oh yeah, he said, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not joke stealing. This is his joke. But he said something to the effect of, nothing makes sense anymore. A Playboy billionaire with 70 felony charges and a hush money trial, that he wants to take women's rights away, and an 80-year-old Catholic wants to give them back to you. Nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing makes sense anymore. And it actually really scared me about this country in general, just listening to all his jokes, because they were so true about, disinformation, the age of disinformation, the age of slanted news. And also, just, when's the last time you took a drive across this country and just looked at all the little small towns and places to live in? You live in
I
a little
live in
country
one of
town,
those,
right?
and it's not worth the drive. Number one. Number two, which is what it smells like up here.
Yeah, quit saying number two over and over again.
It's funny. I was watching the history of the popes and how they came to be. And actually, in England, it was King Henry VIII that separated from the Catholic Church because they wouldn't give him a divorce from his first wife. And it's funny that Catholic, very stern Catholicism, and in today's era, it's the Catholic president that's trying to give these rights back.
Yeah,
Which the Catholic, famously were about no divorce, no abortion, no nothing. And it's Catholic that's giving this, and it's this is something.
And Trump, the Playboy billionaire who just balls everybody,
was it? Was it?
No.
Here's what I don't get: Christians trip over themselves just lining up to vote for this megalomaniac who, has been married 3 times, barely had a newborn son while he's humping a Playboy bunny, and while he's Stormy Daniels and on and on. And yet Mike Pence, who voted, was Trump's right hand man, did everything, voted 100% with Trump, and is a Christian, is only married once, won't even be in the same room with an adult woman if it's not his wife, like ultra Christian. Yet nobody wanted to vote for him. They wanted.
And he won't even endorse his president, which is funny to me. And it's these two 80-year-olds. To me, they're both morons. They're both absolute morons. I'm not voting for either of them. But then there's no, I'm just gonna write in Sigourney Weaver, and that'll be that for me.
Write in the alien.
The alien, maybe. Yeah.
Well,
that's basically Trump in general. Maybe I could use some hypnosis to give me a more positive outlook on reality. Instead, we're speeding towards a real Terminator scenario, and no one cares to stop it or say, maybe AI shouldn't be the future. Maybe we shouldn't fuck around with this stuff that's going to replace all of us. Anyhow, we have a great guest tonight. Is there anything else about this week that is important that you can think back and you think we should?
Everything is fine in the Middle East. Everything is fine in Europe. Ukraine and Russia are doing doing kumbaya. Everything's wonderful. Yeah. The world's perfect. I don't think we should change it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I'm with you. So let's bring on Lesley Mitchell-Clarke and change the subject from this depressing, war-filled world. Hi, how are you, Lesley? Thank you for joining us.
Lesley.
Hello.
So I'm super interested. How long have you been doing just hypnotherapy in general?
Well, actually now it's probably closer to 20 years, I would have to say. But, at first I should say, at first I didn't have the various certifications. I was just doing, I would have to say, like, garden variety hypnosis, which had to do with a lot of people wanting to lose weight or quit smoking. And so that was, very mainstream, a lot of my early stuff. But then probably at least for the past 15 years, in a very focused way, I've worked in, metaphysical hypnosis. I am a master clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm actually back in school. Can you believe it? I'm the oldest living co-ed.
I think that's cool.
I don't care, man.
Yeah.
But in order to widen the scope of my treatment, we're quite restricted as hypnotherapists or hypnotists, really everywhere. In fact, some states, is it Florida? God, of course, it's got to be Florida. They actually have outlawed the practice of hypnotherapy, which is a very sad thing, because it is a non-denominational, benign treatment for an array of things. In fact, hypnosis is
and
at
it goes
least
way back, way
at
back.
least 10,000 years old, that we know of in recorded history. And in fact, the Greeks and the Egyptians really had it down to a science. The Greeks had what they called sleep temples. Now, they did the process a little bit differently than what we do today. Should I describe it? It's pretty trippy.
I'd love to hear about
Okay, so they had a structure that was probably underground. It was probably it was a maze. So some of these mazes that they have found are part of the hypnotherapy treatment plan that they did. So, in our contemporary times, before I get someone into a state of deep relaxation just by talking to them. But the Greeks gave their patients a big opiated drink that just must have kicked their asses, right? So then on
I'm okay with that.
Where's my vape?
prescription.
There's my yes, I deeply resonate with that.
Yeah.
So they had one, priest doctor on each side, and they would walk the person like through this maze, and every, I don't know, 10, 12 feet or something, a priest doctor would pop out of a hidey hole and just whisper into their ear a positive suggestion about what they were there for. Like, you will no longer have stomach cramps after eating the grape leaves, or whatever the boop it was. So that's how they did it. But the principle is the same. If I can get somebody relaxed enough, and I tell you, they call me the Velvet Hammer. I can bore anyone into a state of comatic existence.
Not as good as I can, but keep going. Yes.
So
there we go.
But if I can get someone relaxed enough, then that little, I don't know if you want to call it a membrane or a curtain, but it certainly seems like a curtain. I can open the curtain and get into the subconscious mind, which is where all behaviors are formed, for good or ill. And many times, a lot of our behaviors, especially the ones that have evolved in childhood, are based on like wrong information. That's where,
for sure,
phobias come into play.
Yeah.
Just about every phobia that I deal with is based on a misunderstanding in childhood.
And trauma and
And
traumatic
trauma and
experiences
all of that stuff. So, but so essentially, aside from any of the more esoteric areas I get into, essentially I think of myself as a healer. And as a hypnotherapist, I'm symptom driven. It's sort of the opposite of what a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist might do. Like, I have the person
just pass
tell me,
out drugs.
well, yeah, there's not,
That's what psychiatrists do. I've
that's
been to
right.
a few of them.
That's right. And I
Oh,
can
you got
tell
a problem? Eat this.
that's right. And
Oh, that doesn't work for you? It makes you want to kill yourself? Try this one.
let me try this other thing. The
Mhm.
statistics show that only 50% of the people that are prescribed with SSRIs or SNRIs receive any benefit. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people whose lives have been saved by these medications, but it's not a panacea.
I know one man that has his life has been saved by
It's true.
clinical
It does.
medication.
It does happen.
There is a mix of old world medicine and New World medicine and
Yes.
finding the right balance.
Yes.
I agree with that. So when did it? All right. So what did you say? You had a master's of what in hypnotherapy?
Oh, I just said I'm a master hypnotherapist. That's the highest level in
That's
our
the highest level
little
you can get.
world, in our
Okay.
little world. But
And-
it that and two Pazuzas, will buy you a ticket to Staten Island. So it's
I have no idea what a tupazuza is.
well, I'm just saying, that this is not an accreditation that is particularly, it's not valued in the educational world.
Yeah, fuck those
But
people.
yeah, okay.
They don't.
But I help a
Well,
lot of people. I help a lot of people, and again, just aside from the metaphysical thing that I do, one of my primary jobs is I work as a consultant for a psychology firm, and I treat frontline responders for trauma. I mean, police officers, EMTs, prison guards, you name it. These people have seen the worst possible shite that one being can do to another.
And
I would
are
think
you a total
military as
hack,
well, right?
or
And the military, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And are you just a total hack and a fake, or have a bunch of these people come back to you and said, "Lesley, thank you. I've gotten a lot of help from your work."
Oh my goodness, the healing part is what is so bloody amazing. How resilient people can be, and by taking away the symptoms, panic attacks and things like that, without medicines. And I'm not anti-medicine, but being able to do that provides such incredible relief. And so it's absolutely breathtaking now with most of these individuals who are suffering from PTSD that I work with. And I would say that being an experiencer is a specific kind of PTSD, so it's not
Sure.
unrelated, but they get better.
All right. So I would
They get
say
better.
that
They
the
getting
whole
better.
point that I was making is if you have a plaque on a wall or a pamphlet on a wall that says you've studied hard in your discipline, if it's not respected by he, who, or the other, it doesn't matter. You've studied really hard in your discipline, and
Oh
you've
yeah.
helped a lot of different people out. And if Harvard or Florida says that not illegalized, made it illegal to
Ron
Yeah.
DeSandbag.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ron DeSandbag. He
Yes.
did that. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Like as if it was some kind of illegal gypsy fortune telling or something. Now the reason
and
we're
that's
able
legal in Florida. I've got it.
well,
I've got illegal
probably the
voodoo
reason
gypsy
do
stuff
do
that
that
worked
kind of
really
thing.
well. Actually, I carry my ancestors around in my pocket. It's in a
Wow.
little bag. It looks like heroin, but it's not heroin.
Yeah.
It's my ancestors. And some voodoo person in Tampa Bay, Florida made that for me and told me that all my ancestors would be somehow attached to this bag. And that if I carried this bag around in my pocket and I held it and I thought back to all the different sperm and lives I've lived over the years that have led to this one, that those people and those souls would be rooting for me and I could count on them to help me in my moment. And honestly, things have gone well for me since that day. So,
Well, I love that, and that's true.
yeah.
I believe that. Unfortunately, my ancestors' egos are too big to fit into anything that small, so it's not going to be practical for me. I'd need some kind of
You're
a
not related
large.
to the Trumps, are you?
The funny thing too is like I carry it through airports and it literally looks like a big bag of like
I
some
bet it
illegal
does.
substance.
I bet it
And
does.
and I've
Yeah.
never been bothered for it. Like no
No.
one has ever
No.
stopped
You
me and
have
said,
you have some
"What's
magic
this?"
around you.
Yeah, I think it's
You
it's
do.
protected.
Now, if you had that and a straw, there would be questions. But
True.
that
A
All right.
mirror, a straw. Oh, it's my New York accent. A straw. A
Yeah.
straw.
Leslie, there's a
Yes.
huge LGBT community in Florida, and the Don't Say
Yes.
Gay and all the politics around Ron DeSandbag. It really just it boggles the mind. Like how did he get elected? Two, how people in Florida used to be very diverse, very accepting, very welcoming. People used to retire there. What happened to Florida?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a wonderful exposure of where our pockets of racism actually are. and have never
Ooh.
left. I tend to look at it this way. These people that were, fake liberals, or these people, they're finally, and Trump being a piece of detritus, of oblivion. You know what oblivion is? That's 2 sacks of
No, no.
manure in a 1-pound bag. So he's oblivion. And he I think that's a Yiddish word, but I'm not sure.
I
Anyway,
believe it.
I
Yeah.
love you, Lesley. We're
Yeah.
we're we're
I'm
soulmates.
livid. So, but anyway, I think that what we are seeing is something actually that is going to bring in and is helping to usher in a new era of a higher vibrational existence. This is what, just to skip into this up, this is the kind of thing that, I am hearing, constantly from individuals that I work
It
with
seems
who have had
that's the only
experiences.
hope that I have, is that we're waking up on a
And we
base that,
are.
like, half of us are really frickin' dumb.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than half, but
Mhm.
there's also this large, uncounted for class of Americans that are
Mhm.
actually starting to think for themselves and
Mhm.
study history and wake up to a higher vibrational space.
It's
So
absolutely
I'm
true.
with you. I'll get off Florida.
Yeah.
Florida looks like a
But
dick.
it's everywhere. I
Gonna
mean,
pull
you don't
myself
have
off Florida.
you
But I
don't have
want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sweetie.
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. I wanna ask you about, okay, so you were doing hypnotherapy,
Yes.
and I've heard of Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who I've heard you've kinda taken over for.
Oh, well, he is I was part of a 10-year research program that was run by his organization.
Okay.
And I was
Was he the
simultaneously.
guy, am I wrong? Was he the guy that interviewed, Betty and Barney Hill?
No,
No.
Dr. Edgar Mitchell was a astronaut himself.
Edgar Mitchell.
You do you remember?
Yes,
And
okay.
we have to go back a little, and he was such a dear man, but he actually had experiences, and he
And
spoke
talked
about
about
them
that,
and
yeah.
talked about them openly, and then
Mhm.
later on developed his foundation, which is called FREE, like free. I think it's now run by a gentleman named Ray Hernandez, very competent, good guy. And so the Edgar Mitchell Foundation, and also MUFON, under the direction of Kathy Marden, who is Betty Hill's niece, and who
Oh,
was
wow.
also a hypnotherapist and author of many books. So these 2 research projects went on simultaneously, and what that meant is I was sent a number of people who had already been sort of checked out by MUFON, in the sense of I wasn't really concerned about it being a mental health issue. I am concerned about that if somebody contacts me directly, but not. They'd already been vetted through MUFON and through free. So I had a chance to interview, hypnotize, record so many episodes. Now, when
And
the
so we're talking about, just for you guys at home that don't know what we're talking about, Betty and Barney Hill, and some of these early Betty and Barney Hill were the first people that I know on
Yeah,
record that experienced the
ground zero.
phenomenon of alien abduction and
Hmm.
actually being taken by the
Hmm.
aliens, or
Hmm.
whatever these things are,
Hmm.
this phenomenon in general, and
Hmm.
it grew from there. And so you've been on, at least not the very beginning, but that's a big chunk of patients muted. What did you say? Not muted.
A big chunk.
Yeah. So you've interviewed a large chunk of people.
Vetted. I think I
Vetted,
used the word
vetted,
vet
not
properly, vetted,
muted,
meaning that
vetted. I'm
they'd
like,
are. Yeah,
muted. You just shut
yeah.
them up.
But
No.
I was muted earlier, but
Yes. Okay. So
maybe I
what?
should be muted. I
So
hope you have your hand on that button, by the way.
yes. So what is the way, with the how did you get lucky enough to go from helping people with other like quitting smoking, etc.,
Ah,
to getting involved with the
okay.
alien abduction
All right.
community?
All right. Well, I was always fascinated with the subject matter, and I had my own experiences that were quite profound when I was a young apprentice actor in summer stock. The first year I was there. I do discuss that kind of in detail in my book, but there was a big interest there. And at the time, I was working at a very snazzy, sort of upscale. Imagine, a Beverly Hills situation. This is an area called Yorkville, and it's all ladies with the facelifts and the whole thing, and they want to lose weight, they want to sleep better, and it was pretty mindless most of the time. But at any rate, about once a month, someone would call in to the clinic, and it was a very famous place because Shirley MacLaine went there all the time and publicized it. So they about once a month, and none of the other practitioners, some of whom were psychotherapists, some were psychologists, nobody would deal with that. So I said, you know what? I believe these people. Send them to me. And so what I did, because I was already certified in doing past life regression, and I had a bit of uh, a, a, feel, maybe an aptitude for regression. I think you have to be able to get people into a really nice trance, and that depends on your voice and your manner. And not all hypnotists have all of that. They work better in short little sessions. What can I say? So I started working with these people, and I didn't reinvent the wheel. I actually adapted techniques that are used in past life regression for regressing these people gently and without fear into their
The deep
experiences.
state. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Now, most people, I have like a little rule, kind of, but if an individual, when they come to me, they have to have at least part of a partially recalled memory. So that's our starting ground. Generally speaking, when someone comes to me, they say, "Oh, well, I remember a light and blah blah blah, and this happened. I woke up, my shirt was on backwards. I had a triangle barbecued on my chest, or whatever they say. Whatever they say happened." Um, we go back initially to that point, and the person inevitably, through the process, is able, because all the information is in here. I mean, if Manu or you guys, if you wanted to know what you wore to your fifth birthday party or your confirmation or whatever, it's all in there. I could take you there if you desired it. So it's
I
all
think they
there.
have. I'm not certain of this, but I've shared this with people on this show. I have
Hmm.
alien encounters or
Hmm.
encounters with these interdimensionals since I was not lately, not in the
Hmm.
last 25 years that I can remember, but when I was a kid. Um,
Well, I
and
believe you.
but I think they have some way of erasing what it,
Oh
like you
yeah, I
say,
mean,
everything's in there. I'm not sure it is. I think they might have a tech to,
no, it's there.
you
And
know,
I'll
you
tell you
think.
one thing, you're about at the age where it's all going to start. See, the whether a memory suppression technique is being utilized by an extraterrestrial, or whether it's the less effective kind that is used by some of these collaborative programs with our black ops military and various ETs, they these types of memory suppression only last for 20 years. Now, remember, we get used to the idea of ETs being so advanced that they're godlike. This is an old thing. They are not gods. They are imperfect. They don't really understand how curious we are, and they really don't understand how our minds actually work. And they don't understand how we love our children. There are a lot, and now I'm speaking in generalities because there are many different types of beings, and there's a universe full of life, and some of this life is what I would call ultra terrestrial or interdimensional. Not all of these beings that we engage with have physical bodies on a regular basis. That's part of it too. But
So you're saying there's a whole host of not only
oh
extraterrestrial,
my,
but light beings,
oh,
interdimensional.
oh yes,
Yeah, okay, of course,
But I have
absolutely.
a
There's
question
a
too. But how much
makes
of that
sense.
is them suppressing our memory, and how much of it is we had an experience and it was traumatic for us? And the human psyche can suppress traumatic
Oh
experience,
yeah,
right?
all the time. It's a brilliant combination of them enhancing what is already going on chemically with the memory engrams, with
Right.
how the memories are being um, um, inveigled into the nervous system. It's using what's already there, and this is what they do even when they use anesthetic. It's a lot like trach. They put a thing on the forehead apparently very often, and it has to and the person is completely anesthetized. So um there are all
Oh,
kinds of things going on, but what I was going to say about the memory thing is most of the people that I work with are a little bit older than you guys. It's kind of a midlife thing, and this is about when most of the memory blockage starts to evaporate, and people will start having almost like waking dreams, or they'll start recalling. Now, the fact is that I believe that most of the people who come to me have never stopped having experiences, and that they have almost, in a sense, double lives, because in midlife there is less taking of the physical person, and seems to be more about, if you wish to call it, bilocation or astral projection. This we see People seem to be able to, the experiencers that I work with seem to have the ability, either naturally or taught to them, to release their, psychophysical body, whatever you wish to call it. That's a word I made that up,
I like it.
but thank you. So, some, not a spirit. Talking not about your spirit body. Your spirit is in there, but this is, I suppose, light matter would be, and we all have the ability to do this. I'm sure you've read about great yogis
Yeah, of course.
the
I've read it.
Buddhist monks
I could astral project when I was a kid. I've just
yeah.
lost the ability because I'm old and jaded.
Well, you
Well,
may
and I
be.
don't know where we delineate astral project from imagination, right? There is a certain, that you can, but then there's
When I
also
was a
the
kid,
imagination, and I don't
I
know.
could take off from my body, Tyson. I could
Well, no,
leave
Yeah.
my
I'm not
body.
disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is, when we're young, I
I could
think
look down on the earth
abilities,
like an astronaut. I could look
I
down on the
think
spinning earth.
abilities, right, and imagination are commingled, and we might be able to do things that our parents think are just our imagination, but we're actually more than that. If that makes sense. I know that's
Well, yeah. In fact, I mean, I don't want to spend time talking about myself, but I had a near-death experience as a very young child in hospital, and I remember
right.
coming out of my body and floating above my body and looking at my little body in the bed, and I actually heard a voice. I can't tell you if it was male or female, but the voice said, "No, it's not time yet. You have to get back in. You have things that you have to do. You have to get back in." And somehow I did, and I felt like I came in through the top of my head. But it was a natural thing that sort of happened. Now, I've heard some very the most disturbing things that I hear, guys, the most frightening things, most disturbing things that I
Mm.
hear are of.
She's answering my unasked questions. I like it.
I've picked it up. I know you won, but but I have, the things that happen in these, these black ops programs, which have been around since the 50s, following what we call the Truman Agreement, with the
Yeah, I've
Greys.
heard about it. Yeah.
This kind of.
Apparently, Truman made a deal with the Greys
He
to
did.
experiment on us for some trading of tech or something
Yes,
like that, right?
trading of tech, and that was really the beginning of our really scary military industrial complex, and we ended up creating a whole level of government that is unanswerable to anyone.
With trillions of dollars, and
Trillions, they've been siphoned out, and they know
our
this now.
representative government has no way in. Yes, I
No,
understand.
no, I mean, I know that Jimmy Carter tried
Tried as hard as he
everything.
could.
He
Yeah.
had seen a UFO. I know he tried. All of these guys tried,
Yep, he
and
did.
I think someone has said that Nixon was showed something, of all the smarmy bastards. Oof.
They show
Boy,
Nixon.
God
Well,
help us. You get behind, boy, you guys are in the you get behind the orange curtain, man. It's Nixon territory. People think,
George and George Bush Jr. also seem like they know a little something more than
I
others.
Well,
think maybe.
presidents have anywhere from 48 years and then they're gone, right?
Yeah.
The
So
intelligence services, those people spend a lifetime in there. And what they're willing to share with the president, I bet, is just the tip of the iceberg
and
to
the
what they really
intelligence
know,
the
right?
intelligence services that actually run things, not our representative government, is I think how things are working now in
Yeah.
most all powerful nation
Mhm.
states. The
I
secret
think it's
police actually
one.
run shit,
I think it's really
and the
one
elites and the
kind
billionaires
of
and the
government.
corporate. Yeah.
It's those Bilderberg dudes, man,
Mhm.
but anyway, whatever's happening, I have heard the worst things that I've ever heard have not been, ETs, assaulting us. The worst things are these combined programs that involve, human beings in the military. And I have one. Well, actually, he probably wouldn't mind me giving his name, and he may have even been on your show. And if he hasn't been, he should be.
I'd love to
Is
talk to 'em.
Colonel Randy Kramer, who is an experiencer. He's been on Gaia many times. I don't know how many lie detector tests he has
What happened to
taken.
him?
He was involved in the secret space program as a cadet, taken for many many years, and then when he reached the age of majority at 18, he signed an agreement, and he was a person who I'm sure you probably have heard the phrase 20 and back. Well, that refers again to this 20-year ceiling that there is on memory suppression. So they take these young cadets at 18 or 17, whatever. They serve for 20 years, often on other planets. There's the Mars Defense Force, there's the Lunar Defense Force. There's a lot of shit going on out there that we don't know anything about. And after that 20 years, they are regressed. Now you have to jump down the rabbit hole a little bit on this one because apparently we do have technology that will manipulate time at least on some level.
Okay.
And we've had the Montauk chair obviously since the 50s, but we
What's
have
that?
that. Oh, that's one of the first experimental programs of time travel.
The
And
Montauk
the
chair.
Montauk chair.
Have you
I
heard of this, Tyson?
I have heard of the Montauk chair. And you know what? When you use the word we have technology.
They have.
Well, no, but
we
we in
paid for it, man. It
We
belongs
paid
to
for it.
us. We
Yeah.
but
paid
it's
for
not
that.
just it's not just the U.S. Germany had,
Right,
Russia
right,
Yeah.
has.
right.
We
Yes,
is not the
right.
U.S. We is
No,
huge.
it's
All
something
the
else. You're
nation
right.
states run by secret police and
They're all
billionaires.
involved. Colonel Kramer told me that there is not a civilized nation in the world that is not involved in some way.
Right,
And this is old
right.
news. And we are in total agreement here. It's only mechanics of how it all works. But my point being that Colonel Kramer spent 20 years in service and then was regressed and woke up one morning without any memory of what had happened and went to high school. So this is
Wow.
something. And when I talk about another kind of PTSD, when I'm working with these individuals,
So regressed actually
these are,
de-aged.
yes, de-aged. They have the
Wow.
power. They have the power to replace body parts. And he said, when you go on a long, mission, you go on board and you have two cloned bodies with you. They call it one and a spare, and they can.
An
And
heir and a
this
spare.
again, gotta suspend disbelief a little bit. And because I have heard this from several sources, not just Colonel Kramer, but there is some type of technology that can transfer the soul or the consciousness, and I'm not even sure what we're talking about here.
Discorporate?
It
The
is fluid.
discorporate?
Yeah, it is fluidic, and it seems to come out of the spine from what he has said, and then it is inserted or injected into the cloned body so that they actually can transfer consciousness. Now, I mean, this happens, this happens when we are born, when we enter a body that doesn't have a consciousness, when we're ready to be born. So, this may be something that is a part of our natural world, but we just have not had an understanding of it.
So we're corporeal beings, right? We are
Yeah.
corporeal. So to discorporate would be to disassociate, to disanchor the soul from the body, if you will, to
Yes.
discorporate. So
Yes.
so you're saying that we could discorporate and then have other vessels.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I'm actually just transferring to you guys what I have heard, because I don't know how I feel about that. I'm a very spiritual person. I was raised Catholic. Don't hold that against me, but
Oh.
I'm half Jewish too. I say I always go to confession, but I bring my attorney with me. Good idea.
I'm using that,
All
stealing
right,
that
no,
joke
so
from you.
I'm
using that.
interested. So wait a second. This is if we truly live in a multi-dimensional universe, which makes
Yes.
sense to me, then I could go work for the Space Force and do some Mars deterrent wars against whatever was attacking our universe that we were holding at Mars. And then 20 years into my life, they could disincorporate me and then bend time and bring me back to a different multiverse where I was just a step removed from this one where I'm still 20.
Yeah.
And they leave me there waking up in the bed thinking that I've lived that life.
Yes. And this is what has happened to
Wow.
men and women. And it's almost like, in addition, it's such an abomination, because in addition to this whole military wing that's operating without any type of jurisprudence whatsoever, aside from that, we have a huge amount of human beings who are veterans, who served for 20 years and served under horrendous conditions often. And when they are regressed back, a lot of these people have some very deep psychological things going on. I know they may develop drug
Wow,
problems.
Katie's heard of this.
Yeah, this is not an unusual thing.
So you're saying I could have served in the Space Force and then come back to my real life and been all PTSD messed up. So when I got on Star Trek back when I was 20 and I went back and I started like pretending to be in the Space Force, it messed me up and I got addicted to all sorts of things and I screwed up this life because I served in that life. Wow, that's some really crazy shit. I
Wow.
mean,
Well,
not crazy as in crazy, but just as an interesting.
this is what has happened to these
Because
individuals.
I've always felt scared and I've always felt like I had PTSD. I feel like this entire life that I've lived, buddy.
I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
That's right.
I haven't
This
touched anything.
entire
This
life
isn't me.
has been I look back at it and I remember I was supposed to be scared of the Soviet Union when I was young, and there was always something that I was supposed to be scared of and terrified of. And when I even go out on the streets, I'm supposed to be scared and terrified. It seems like that's what they want us to be.
Fear is the
A great,
destroyer.
yeah, the mind killer, right?
That is the mind killer that will erode everything. And this is when, if we're talking about our society, our civilization, and I
And it
feel
seems like if we're still experiencing all that fear and then this reality exists on top of that one, oh, that's mind numbing. And you've heard, I mean, how many people have experienced this that you've actually done hypnotherapy on?
at this point, I would say about 50 altogether.
What? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
over the past 10, 15 years.
All of these people vetted by MUFON and sent to you, or half and
Yeah,
half, or
yeah. Most of them vetted by MUFON, and because the MUFON may not realize the extent of what's going on with these people, because of course they're reporting to MUFON phenomena that they're seeing, or whatever. And what's happening is, I don't think you ever leave the service of the, black ops, what have you. I think it continues on, and it
Right.
morphs into other kinds of tasks. For instance, I have a lovely lady, now nothing traumatic, she most experiences, I should say 70%, this is what was determined by both of these big studies, that 70% of the experiences are either benign or ecstatic, right? So we're talking about terrifying things being a very small part of,
30% is still
yeah. Well,
rather
yeah,
seven,
it's
3
it's
out of
sig
10.
it's significant, and also that probably 2.5% or maybe more of our entire population has had encounter experiences. The
Wow.
number is huge. You can think of it maybe also, I used to always say it's like New York City. It's 14 million, about 14 million people, but I think it's much greater than that. But these individuals who in midlife have either they've been and this can happen whether or not they have been part of some type of military combined thing, or whether they have just been an experiencer in the sense of they've been visited, repeatedly and had experiences. It's midlife where the memory suppression starts to evaporate, and it's also midlife where individuals seem to understand that they have agreed in the interlife. They have agreed before they ever came into this physical body to be involved in this program, this great
Hey,
grand
20 extra years of
experiment.
life and I get to go to Mars. Why not,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But yeah, it sounds terrifying, and especially if we're a part of some war or some weirdness. Like, what are
Well, the
these people
weirdness,
experiencing it
they are, well, it's first of all, I've been told by a
in the
few.
interlife? Yeah.
And I just wanted to add that I've been told by a few of these people who've been in the 20 and back
Uh-huh.
that we pretty much control who comes into our solar system. So we're not the vulnerable sitting ducks that we
That
have
we
been taught to believe. Again, fear-based bullshit.
mhm.
So what is going on the
Boogeyman
moon?
trauma mongering. Yeah.
Boogeyman trauma. There's not a lot going on the moon. There are some indigenous beings that are reptilian, but we have treaties with them. Okay, so there's not a lot of fighting and bullshit going on. That's just more of a outpost. That's where the guys go first. And I was also told, in my mind, I imagined something like, what was the oh god, what was the Roddenberry series about the space station, deep
Star Trek Deep Space Nine or
deep
something like
space?
that. I
I am
don't know if I've ever heard about it.
that's it.
I
But
don't know.
in my mind, I'm thinking about Deep Space Nine. I'm thinking
Okay.
that's what it looks like. But no, it's like Quonset huts. It's like the 50s where they first got their, initial, funding. Now, the experiences on Mars are far more combative because, again, there are reptilian beings that live underground, and some of them are hostile and some of them are not. So there are military skirmishes that go on with regularity. Now, also,
On Mars? On
yeah,
Mars?
and this idea, and there's atmosphere on Mars. We've been bullshitted and lied to.
Well, no,
There,
Certainly
okay.
looks like it.
Even the general population believes that because not curious. The most recent rover sent a helicopter, and there's images of the helicopter. A helicopter can't take off without atmosphere. Period. It can't.
I know. They've been
There's
terraforming
atmosphere.
for
Yeah.
half a century. There is atmosphere,
Yes.
and so when you first go there, it's an adjustment. So you have to use some oxygen.
Half the
But
gravity.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an adjustment, but eventually you adjust to the situation. Now, so they also let's see, Captain Colonel Kramer told me that one of the big battles is they just blew the shit off of the moon of out off of Phobos, which I think is a moon. God help me. I
I'll look
think
it up.
it's
Hold on.
yeah, but they called it the Battle of Phobos, and some Greys, some Zeta Reticulites, once again were causing some type of simus down there, some kind of trouble, and it turned into a thing, and we just bombed the shit out of them and blew up the whole Grey establishment. Yeah.
Phobos is the innermost and larger of two natural satellites of Mars. Yeah, and it looks like it's been bombed the shit out of. Honestly, it does. Hold on.
There's a
Oh my God.
It looks
Mars
like an
has a
absolute war zone.
Mars has a huge crater area called Utopia Planitia.
Mhm.
And in the Star Trek universe, that's been usurped by Earth and is used to construct starships at Utopia Planitia. But
That's
Utopia
right.
Planitia is a real place on Mars. You can look it up on the Mars map. It's wonderful.
It
Well,
is.
it was one of my most disappointing things about getting to be on Star Trek. I was always into aliens since I was a little kid. Mom was in her 20 and back place when I was a child. My mom was 38 and I was 8 probably, or I think she had me at 32 or something like that. And she saw these what you just called Zeta Reticuli. She saw the big-eyed. She said they had more like owl-like ears, but that she saw the big-eyed, no mouth, and it was kind of doing this next to her bed. And then she started having all these memories of them all the way back to the farm in Tacoma
Oh
and
yeah, I'm not surprised.
but what are that got me really interested. Zeta Reticulians, Greys, where are these guys from? What have you learned about what their agenda is?
Well, these are the guys that again are they were the beings that crashed at Roswell, but there wasn't just one crash. There were apparently 3 ships.
They seem to crash all the time.
Yeah, well, they were brought down apparently by some type of early sonic weapon that we were testing, and they just were not prepared for it. It took them completely by surprise. So there were crashes, there were survivors, and it was these survivors from the Zeta Reticulite system that made or proposed the agreement to Truman, and in exchange for things like, it was tech that there has to be an explanation for our huge leap in tech. It just doesn't quite
It's
really
pretty
make sense. But
gigantic.
fiber optics, integrated circuits,
Wi-Fi, 5G, all the nine.
yeah,
Yeah.
Velcro, every.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we've
I bet you had
certainly
a bit
come
of
up with a lot.
Velcro in your costume there. I bet you did. I bet
Yeah,
you were
and
Velcroed into that
Velcro it
thing,
up.
man.
I just think back, 70 years of tech has really blown my mind. I
Yeah.
read the book by Lesley Keane about just the
Mhm.
secret object, the unclassified stuff
Yeah.
that took place at Area 51, and it's mind-bogglingly
It's
amazing.
mind-blowing. They
So what they
they
haven't told us that took place out there must be like, yeah,
I know.
must
We don't
be.
know anything, and I believe that there are underground bases
Me too.
between all
I
these Dreamland and all these joints out there in the bloody. If I used as a singer, I used to go and work out at one of those awful bases out there in the middle of nowhere, and it's just such the middle of nowhere. Anything could be going on out there
Yeah,
in Death Valley. Anything. So
especially under the ground.
especially under the ground. So
And they
these
seem to be interdimensional. I've seen a bunch
well,
of shows now where people are looking for they're using this mapping technology
uh-huh.
and they find underground tunnels and facilities, but when they try to blow up and get to it, it isn't there. But the
It's a
mapping
I want to
technology is seeing it.
yeah.
I want to level set here. Different planes are not the same thing as dimensions, and here's why. I believe there are multiple dimensions. So if we think of dimensions as height, width, depth, and then space time maybe being a fourth dimension, I think there are 5, 6, 7 other dimensions that we are not biologically able to sense, to realize, to see. And one of the best examples that I've ever been told was, imagine for a moment you were a two-dimensional creature, right? Living on a piece of paper, right? There's width, there's length, but there's no height. And so you're a two-dimensional creature. Now imagine there's a hole in that paper and a sphere, three-dimensional sphere, drops through it. What would you see as a two-dimensional creature as that sphere dropped through? You would see a little circle pop out of nowhere. It would expand, and Mana's been through this before, little asshole. So you would see it, you'd come out and go back, and it would disappear, come out of nothingness. You wouldn't see this sphere because you would not. You're two-dimensional. You can't.
You're two-dimensional.
Well, that's
experience
why
that third dimension.
that's
What
true.
if there's 5, 6, 7 dimensions and we just can't?
There's
experience?
11
They're there, but
according
we
to
can't.
CERN scientists.
There's more. There's
Yeah.
more than we can. In
11
fact,
proven according to the CERN people.
Indeed, and it could be, like the great yogis have said, and certain, like, the Seth Chronicle. It could be that everything is happening all at the same time.
I believe we're
And
only able to perceive a tiny, tiny bit
Oh yeah.
of reality. What
I
the
think
whole
Native
fake
Americans
reality
and the Civil War is happening right here, right
It
here
could
in
be.
another
if you
space.
took reality in its totality, we can only biologically perceive a tiny bit of the nature of reality, right?
That's so
It's
true.
so much more.
And this is sort of the law of the universe. There are two things I want to quickly tell you because they're kind of fascinating. Is when we do talk about past life regression or the interlife, which is where we are before we decide to come in again to physical life, if we decide that. It's a higher vibrational level. I don't know if you want to call it heaven or what you call it. There's no pain, there's no sickness. This is where we do our thing, where we meet up with our people that we've missed and loved. It is not unusual for individuals who I've regressed, no ufology context, I've regressed them into their interlife. And I will say to them, can you describe to me the beings that are in your council? Because there's always a council and there's always a retrospective, a loving one, but there are certain commonalities that people always experience. It's a
Very
little bit like
Urantia book.
the Albert Brooks film, Defending Your Life. It's really a little bit like that. So anyway, it is not unusual for people to tell me that some of the beings sitting on their council are aliens. That most of them don't look like Greys really ever, but they would be Pleiadian, they would be Arcturian, they would be tall, they would have extended skulls. So
Are the Nordics there?
The Nordics are there.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is now either we're in the same soul group as all these beings, which I suspect we are, and that is also their afterlife, or this is what I really think, many beings that exist in our realm of perception or just outside of it are able to adjust their vibrational level like a step up or step down transformer, and they can freely pass into the area that we perceive as the afterlife.
I think I remember you saying that when you had a near-death experience, you heard a voice, "It's not your time,
Yes.
go back."
Yeah,
And that's a common trope. So many people have had that very experience. And I'm curious about the people who have died and not come back. Is there that voice saying, "It's your time, asshole. Go on up. Yeah, you're not going back. Go."
I think
like people who don't come back, do they get that same voice saying, "It's your time. You're not going back. It's your time.
I've heard what I usually hear if I'm doing a past life.
We can't talk to wherever they
I
went.
know, that's the
we
question.
can't. But when I do past life regression, I take people through various death experiences, right? So I do.
So if they had died and come back as a different person, right?
Yes, but usually when people go through the death experience, they are met very early on by either loved ones or some type of guide who helps them come out of their body and greets them and sort of escorts them into the new way of being. Some people who have died from long terrible cancer deaths, like this, all
Right,
their
right, right.
etheric bodies are affected by illness like that too. So I have had more than one person tell me about a kind of hospital on the other side where people are being healed, but there's no sadness, and they're being healed with like crystals,
How would I
light
light.
working.
recognize? So if I were to die and go to heaven, and or whatever you want to call the ether,
The interlife.
and how would I recognize my mother as a 72-year old physically crippled, or would I see her in her 20s, or would I see her in her, like, how would I even
Okay,
recognize her?
most people present themselves in their 30s. You're not going to pass away and see your grandma, most unless she wants to show herself to you that way. Now, I find when I have some kind of ghost encounter, when
Right.
which I've had these things my whole life, and I think as above so below. I don't see a lot of difference in in anyway these experiences, but I will see someone usually as they lived in life, but they're showing that to me. They want me to understand what their life was like, and so
So
they're
will
showing.
they present themselves in a way that my mind most recognizes them?
I think
Or
that
your
very
spirit.
that's very common, or your
Right.
spirit. And remember, we incarnate together in groups. Your
Oh,
mother
that's
may have
cool.
been your mother may have been your sister in another, it's like a repertory company, and that's how we
Oh,
work out.
oh.
No, no, it's okay, don't freak out. That's why we don't
No, I
remember.
feel it. I
That's
feel
why
it.
we don't
No,
remember.
I'm kidding.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not consanguineous. It's okay.
I think
So
that's why some people find themselves in the wrong bodies. There's a little hitch in the matrix,
it
and they're like,
and it
"Wow, what the fuck? Something fucked up."
I'm
it
not
does.
incestuous. This really wasn't my sister in another life. It's okay.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Catholic,
I'm
Catholic
kidding. I'm
guilt,
kidding.
Catholic Christian guilt. Shut up. All right, no, wait a second.
okay. No
Um,
worries.
okay, no, all right. So listen to this. I found this very interesting. My stepfather died twice, and both times
Mm.
he says he found himself in the interlife. He didn't call it that, but the
Mhm.
best way he could describe it was a white plane that
Mhm.
he could stand on, but he didn't know that there was a floor there, but he could feel like he was, standing on something. And he was just waiting around, and he was out, like his heart had stopped beating for minutes.
Mhm.
I think 3 minutes and 12 seconds one time, 2 minutes and something seconds the other. Both times standing in a white plane of nothingness, kind of sitting there, and he had this idea that he was waiting for somebody.
Mhm.
But he didn't know who they were, but he knew somebody was coming, and he was just waiting. And then he found himself back in his body. So when he told me that, I said, "Well, Jeff, have you seen The Matrix?" And he said, "No." And I go, "Well, you've got to see The Matrix because
Yeah.
you're explaining the place that Neo and the other guy find
Mhm.
themselves in, that white space where they then
Mhm.
program in reality."
Mhm.
And when I showed him that picture, he literally got up out of his chair and went, "That's where I was.
Wow.
That's
It's
it.
like the
That's
neutral
exactly
void,
it.
right?
The
The
neutral
neutral
void."
void.
Yeah.
I think that can occur. I mean,
Yeah.
these are all, we're only limited,
And he'd never seen the movie. So it
he'd
was
never
I
seen it. So that was a
yeah.
very good, that was a very good interpretation. Now
Yeah.
that I sometimes people do experience, but those are usually people who come back. I
Mhm.
think when you're going over, unless there's some reason why you'd be stuck in limbo. They don't even have limbo anymore, the Catholic. Can you believe that? Well, the
Did
only
they
Now,
kind
get
of
rid of limbo?
limbo's gone. I was
Good, because limbo was
terrified.
so boring.
It's
Ah,
gone.
Leslie,
so boring.
I I want to say, Manu and I have had a million questions for you, but we have some callers
Oh,
lined up that also have
okay.
questions for
Oh
you.
God. See,
If it's
hey,
okay, if we can bring them
look,
on.
Yes,
look,
yes, please do.
hey, I'm so sorry. I used to keep this show to like a minimum time, and we kept shooting for an hour. But I just don't care anymore. When we get an interesting guest like you, I just keep talking away.
Right.
So I'm
But they want to ask her questions. I want to.
all right,
I want
good.
them
Well,
to-
I'm down. Let's let them ask. I didn't get past question 3 on
Oh
Oh.
shit.
list.
Oops.
Oh dear.
As we just had fun chatting. I'm sorry. But
Well,
yeah,
I'll
let's take
just
some.
have
Well, you're
to come
wonderful,
back.
Lesley. That's why.
Yeah,
Oh,
can you?
guys,
Will you? Yeah, that'd
anytime.
be great. That'd be great.
Anytime.
All right, so let's let some of our listeners ask some questions, and then I might
Good.
have a couple more for you if you'd stick around. If not, we can
Absolutely.
close
I
the
can
show.
stick around for a few more minutes, but I'm an old lady. I need my sleep.
You
I
want
was
to go to
bad
bed
enough.
soon. I understand.
I've got an old bladder. I need my pee. That's
yeah.
My bladder's not so good either. So
What I am happy about is that 70% of these encounters are benign and or
yes.
positive.
Yes. Yes. And we didn't even really get to talk about the types of beings that people are engaging with. There's a huge variety of beings that are
not
engaging
all
with us.
humanoid, right?
So it's
not all
not
humanoid.
it's not all humanoid.
Not all humanoids. Not all are even in bodies. But
Yeah.
but we do have beings engaging with us that are our Geno cousins, and those are any beings that emanate from the Lyran system. So you're talking about the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, even the Anunnaki were part of that system. So we have Geno cousins in the neighborhood. So there are beings that look so much like us that they can easily pass if they choose
Is
to.
it likely that the Arcturians, the Anunnaki, etc., took some DNA and have been kind of experimenting down here on Earth?
I think we can pretty much look to the work of Zecharia Sitchin on that one because
Yeah.
I do believe that the Anunnaki were involved in upgrading an existing primate or proto-human. There is no missing link because there is no missing link. We went from being Neanderthals and Denisovans to being Homo sapiens sapiens overnight. And this was in some kind of sort of failed attempt to create a labor force on the Terran planet that could help with the gold mining. And it's ironic because according to the work of Sitchin, slavery itself had been outlawed on Nibiru, the home planet of the Anunnaki, for millennia. But there was a kind of a loophole where they said, well, we're just kicking things in the
We're
ass.
just using these little ape things down here.
We're
They're
just
not
tweaking.
really.
They would eventually they would turn into this. So here we go. Meanwhile, they added in their DNA, their substance, and we
So
are.
we took the scenic road to yes, right?
Yeah, and yes, because I mean, if the original, first line of the Bible that's been mistranslated time and time again is in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth.
Plural, and
Yes.
it's always in plural, right? Let us make man in
Let
our
us
image.
make man
in
our
our
image.
It's
Behold,
always plural.
mankind has become like one of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's up with that?
That's always bothered me.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a few Catholic priests that said, "Oh, that's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost," and I'm like, that's a bullshit.
That is.
But there's angels and there's demons
Yeah.
and there's so much of ethereal beings that it's not just God in heaven.
No,
Come on. Of
if
course,
you
he
ever
was
get a
speaking
chance
to a plurality.
out there, people listening, if you ever get a copy of the Urantia book, give it a shot. Try to read it. It's a really cool explanation of how the universe works.
I thought that's where P came out of the bottom. Oh no, that's Urethra.
No, the
Sorry.
Urantia book.
No.
A bunch
Ouch.
a bunch of people that could what's it called? When you bring in a spirit from another.
Well, they're full trance mediums or mediums.
Yeah, mediums, right? A bunch of
Yeah.
mediums got together and they wrote this thing after doing a bunch of all these gods from the different universe came and explained to all these mediums how the universe worked. And one half of the book is actually one medium who was spewing it out in his sleep. And his wife was like, "What the heck is happening?" And she wrote it all down. And the other half of the book is a bunch of mediums that got together that tried to add to this using their And it's called the Urantia book, and you can get a free copy of it, I think, still, the Urantia Society. But it's a really hard read because it's all the gods and all the creatures we've been talking about trying to tell us little monkeys down here how it all works. So it's a tough read.
It is a tough read, but it's a wonderful read. Maybe I would recommend also The Lost Book of Enki, which is
I've heard of that.
retelling. It is a telling of Enki's personal story. The guy who sort of got it all going here, and it's by Zechariah Sitchin, but it's been constructed. It is a story. It's phenomenal. The Lost Book of Enki is fascinating.
By the way, Enki was also a ghost on Pac-Man. Really quick, you know when I think about greater intelligences trying to teach less, I think of, and let me just steal my little prop here. She can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear. She has all the same senses that I do. But if I try to teach her algebraic formulas, if I try to teach her calculus, if I try to teach her geometry, it's beyond her comprehension. Not her fault. She's a very sweet thing, but
all we know, she knows way more than you, and
she can't. But she won't comprehend those algebraic formulas. Not to say she isn't a sweet, loving creature. I wonder if, in the same vein, those higher beings look at us and say, I wish I could teach you the nature of the universe, but your mind is just
not quite capable. We'll do our best.
I think they are far more frustrated by our horrendous, violent behaviors to each other.
They're the ones that pick the monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. And monkeys,
they could have picked dolphins
in
or
nature.
Yes, Katie.
That's right. They form little armies and they fight each other. They have wars. I mean, these are not peace-loving. So it's not. I think they're very frustrated with our narrow thinking.
They could have picked the bonobos instead of the chimps or something.
I know something, but anyway, I think I don't hear too much frustration like that, because you have to remember, as soon as we're out of our bodies, if we're projecting our astral body and working on a ship with them on a science project, we have all of our stuff available to us. Once we get back into the third density, into our little meat suit, then we are again
we're
limited and dumbed down, limited in certain ways, because our higher power, our soul knowledge, is really unlimited, and that's
a cosmic record or whatever that's called.
I'm going to say one last thing, and then let's take questions from our panel. The last thing I wanted to say was something very interesting that Elon Musk said. Not that I'm a big Elon Musk fan, but
me neither.
They were saying, a guy was saying to him, this whole thing, Elon Musk likes to talk about this being an experiment, some kind of simulation, right? So the guy goes, well, why would God run a simulation? Like God knows what's going to happen in the end, blah, 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 blah. And then Elon was like, no, why would you think God knows what's going to happen? Why would you think these creatures are God or whatever you want to call it? Why would you think it knows? That's why it's running the simulation. He goes, I run thousands of simulations every day to launch my rockets. And I run them to find out what's going to happen. Why wouldn't this God or whatever this reality is, why wouldn't it be running countless simulations to see what happens? It doesn't necessarily know. So God may not even know what the fuck is going on.
It's a universe of free will. I believe it is a universe of free will, and there are certain timelines that become possible and start to vibrate. And, there are always possibilities, but ultimately it is a universe of free will. If someone wants to be an idiot and not learn anything and be depraved, they have that choice, unfortunately.
Well, that's a thing, but it maybe, unfortunately, maybe if we didn't have free will, it would be a really boring universe. All right, let's take over. Let's let somebody take over. I know
Dave is next. Dave,
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Well, first, well, thanks for being on the show, Lesley. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Oh, you're
especially
welcome.
an
Oh,
hour and a
you're
half.
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah. Tyson was talking about Callie not being able to comprehend algebraic formulas and things like that. But let's flip the script. Say, what does the cat think of us?
What
It's
does it
saying,
know that I don't? Right?
exactly. It's just like it's saying, I want tuna, and you gave me chicken. What the heck? Or something.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Cats are pretty mystical. There's a reason they've been worshipped
Yeah.
all these millennia, and they are psychic. They know what you're thinking. They know if you're sick. Um, there was always a cat at a nursing home where I used to work, and that cat always knew who was going to pass and would go sleep with them. So I don't know.
The
They are,
Egyptians thought of them that way too,
yeah,
as keepers of the afterlife.
they
And
did.
yeah.
They did. Mysterious. They're mysterious creatures of incredible depths, really, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
So
as a child, what was that, Tyson?
no,
He
I
said,
was going to say they're mysterious. This one just wants to be fed and let out to go poop. Not mysterious at all. No mystery. He knows.
No, but it's weird because as a child, I had these recurring nightmares of monsters outside my bedroom window and yanking me out of the window and taking me to God knows where. And for years, I just buried that memory. But being a part of the show with Dangerous Thoughts, some of the guests in the past, some of those memories are starting to creep up
I
into
bet.
the forefront
might
again.
have been
Like,
real.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm just thinking, was it aliens? Was it actual monsters? Was it? I just know. Part of me wants to know, but part of me really doesn't want to know because I
Well,
was tormented by bullies growing up as a kid. So
and
I
that
just
is a thing because it's when you have lost control, you knew you weren't in control of the situation. It was either what you're talking about is very indicative of some type of contact, particularly the being pulled out of the window, or
Or them
sometimes
coming in the window, right?
or
It's
them
very
coming the
common.
window or going right through the roof, or there are all kinds of things. But that seems quite indicative to me. And I think when you're ready to explore it, my personal feeling is knowledge is always power. It's better to know and to integrate these experiences, and that's what I that's what I do. That's how I help people who have, and many of them had tough childhoods, being bullied. Like it's like the kids could sense there was something special about them, and kids are horrible and mean, and sometimes before you're gay, the kids know, and they torture other kids. I- it's but it's something that I hear about an awful lot with experiencers, people who had experiencers for their in their early lives.
And by the
yeah,
way,
see,
guys, if you want to contact Lesley, you can go to www.lightworkhypnosis.com. Can they send you a message there to get a hold of you? And there's also
Absolutely.
links in the what are they called? I always forget.
The
Just
crawl.
links in the description below.
links
Oh,
in the description below. But yeah,
okay.
Lightworks,
Lightwork hypnosis.
lightworkhypnosis.com.
Absolutely. There's a little area where you can send me an email, and I do get back to everyone, even if you just want to ask a question.
You can
I
also
always do.
Cool.
Yes,
That's fantastic. I didn't mean to cut you off.
that's all
Also,
right.
there's also her book, Intersection: A True Story of Extraterrestrial Contact, is probably available there too.
It's
If
available
not,
anywhere you Amazon.
yeah, that's what I figured. That's what I was going to
I've
say
been doing a
next.
lot of Amazon lately, so
And once
Anywhere
again,
you
that is
Amazon.
Anywhere.
Intersection: A True Story of Extraterrestrial Contact by Lesley Mitchell-Clarke with an E.
Thank you. That's my
Yes.
Irish E. It's kind of a cool book because there are an awful lot of transcriptions in there. I had the great fortune to work with one particular experiencer. We worked on this together for several years, so that covers many, many sessions, and there are big chunks where I had them transcribed literally. So it's probably one of the most up close and personal books, that I've even seen about regression, about what happens in a session, that kind of session.
And I would
Tyson,
like
will
to
you buy
say
me that one too?
Yeah, please. Our guest, this guest, and all the guests we have on, and the guests we will have on, we do not pay them. We do not give them money to come on. So they are giving up their free time and talking with us and doing this show. So as a way to give back for our listeners, if you will follow our guests, if you will look at their websites, if you will buy their books, if you'll read their stuff, that's what helps us, and that's what helps our guests. That is
by
their
the
payment
way,
for
we
coming on the
don't
show.
endorse any of it or believe or disbelieve any of it, but dang, it's interesting to me. And I was so happy
Love
to get
it.
those books from you. And I'm
Yes.
gonna maybe I'll return the favor and I'll send you a couple back. I'll start with Lesley here. So we've got two more listeners at least,
Well,
right?
I'm not
Okay.
done. I'm not
And
done yet, though.
Dave's not dumb. All right.
Okay,
Dave's not
Dave.
dumb. Dave's not
No,
done.
I'm not dumb or done. So I'm
Good
along
one.
with ADHD, so I already got 2 strikes against me.
All right.
But no, you were talking about the afterlife and all that, saying I begin to wonder if my friend who passed away when I was 12 years old is going to be that individual who's going to be there when I pass away, when I transition. He's going to show me the light, because he and I just gelled together. He had a lisp, a learning disability, glasses, braces, stutter, and it turned out a faulty heart valve killed him when he was 13.
Oh.
But yeah, he visited me a couple of years after he passed away. He was still wearing his glasses, but none of the other impediments was tearing him down, holding him down. He, like 36 years later, I still remember his words. I wanted to stop by and let you know I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
In a dream or in a
dream.
Yeah.
It was in a dream. About 2 years after he passed away, I saw him eating lunch in the cafeteria. I worked in the kitchen during junior high, and yeah, he was out there just eating food with my friends, and I'm just like, what the hell are you doing here? I thought you were dead. And he just smiled and says, I thought, just wanted to stop by.
See, he picked a way to communicate with you that couldn't possibly be frightening. And that's what our loved ones do. And I have every instinct that I have tells me that when it's time for you to cross over, he will be there to make sure that it's a love-filled, smooth,
and I'm
perfect
jealous
transition.
Because you're going to get that, and I'm going to get my mom joking about death face. Because me and my mom always talk about that death face that a lot of people make when they die, and it kind of looks like this. And it's horrible. And if you've ever seen a dead corpse or your dead grandmother, or your dead mom, it's a very horrible look on their face. And a lot of people get that. And I know that my mother, when she comes back to help me through, is going to joke with me, and she's going to give me that death face first. And then
So you
gotcha.
That was the face you made me die. But no, saying when I later when I became an adult, I joined a paranormal group in Seattle, and some of us partook in a meditation session, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she was walking us through a scene where we're going through a forest, going to a clearing, we're reaching a beach, you see a person in the distance, and she's like, it's you. It was Chris. We didn't, no words. We hugged, I cried. I actually cried right there in their living room, and her husband, Pete, before he left, he mentioned to her just like, I just get this weird vision of David just busting out crying for no reason.
Dave?
And I cried.
That's a really great story, but I'm going to cut you off because your microphone sucks. And this whole time we've been hearing.
And we got a couple others to get to, but
I'm not. I think your story is beautiful, and I'm glad you shared it. I just had to kill that mic.
But by the way, my mother, I got your mother beat. It's not the death fates. My mother at her funeral said, I want you to take the bouquet off my coffin and toss it out into the audience to see who's next.
That's really funny. me and my mom, when we talk about the death face, it's because we both saw my grandmother with it. And I was like 8 and I was sitting in a corner, and they were these creepy mortician people were like asking my mother and her sisters that were there. I don't know why they brought me, but I was there at 8 years old.
Golly.
But they were asking the sisters if they all wanted to. The creepy mortician guy was like, "Would you like to give her a kiss?" And my mom and all her sisters looked at each other and went, "No." and so,
Wow.
we always joke about that. So I'm sure my mom will, after she passes, thank God she's still here. But
what a great segue for Katie. Oh my
yes,
God.
Katie.
And you're muted, Katie. I'm gonna unmute.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Where do I start with the subjects that have been discussed tonight? It is so good to have you on the show, Lesley.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
I know nothing about what you were saying about the soul transference, but
yeah, that was cool.
I have an understanding of it. I don't know how or why, but I do. Marla, I think, will know why. But it's something that I've always believed. I've never known that it was even a theory or that it could actually happen. So hearing that it's kind of known sort of freaks me out a little bit, and it takes a lot to freak me out. But I've been blown away by what's been said tonight, and especially with the hypnotherapy as well. I have a lot of issues with that, and past life regression. I have been to 4 different people to try and have a past life regression, and for the first time in their careers, they were not successful. And they don't know why. Now, I'm not qualified. I'm not. But I am very spiritual. I am a medium. I can go into trance. I can meditate. I can astral project. But for some reason, hypnotherapy and past life regression has never worked on me. And it has always freaked not only me out, but the men and women who have tried to regress me. I've even tried clinical hypnotherapy for pain as well, which has been unsuccessful. And I'm just wondering if you've got any insight into that, because I have deja vu, and I believe that is a memory trying to surface from a past life, or it could even be something of what you've been speaking about tonight about soul transference. I don't know. But I can get into that relaxed state. I can meditate. I can contact the spirit world. I can see things, hear things, but for some reason, nobody's ever been successful in regressing me. And I'm just wondering if you had any opinion on that.
Well, there could be several reasons for that. First of all, only 70% of people can be regressed. Not everybody can go through a regression process. And, my personal feeling about that is, some people just, they have control issues, and they, can't go where you would want them to go. Now, you don't fall into that category. That's not what's going on here, because you're a very facile, meditator and spiritual practitioner. One of the other things that can prevent or inhibit regression is if the individual has had a lot of trauma in this physical life. Now, the way that I was taught by the wonderful Georgina Cannon to do this kind of work is when we are bringing the individual to the birth experience rather, we first, to sort of, lubricate things, we bring somebody to different time periods in their life. I'll say, well, you're 25 now, you're having a wonderful time, what are you doing, da, and I go back until finally we get back past the in utero experience. Now, if there are incidents that haven't been dealt with or that maybe are suppressed themselves, which is always a possibility, in this current life, that can interfere with getting past the birth experience. Now, I'm not saying it's that. These are, in my experience, a couple of the reasons why this happens. But as I said, there is a percentage of people who just are resistant for an unknown reason. Now, it could be that the hypnotherapists that were working with you were using what we call authoritative language, and you didn't accept that. Remember that all hypnosis is really self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
So you are either allowing yourself to go or you're not able to. But it's really more about you than it is about the practitioner, I think. But I'd like to take a crack at it.
Well, I put a comment on earlier in the YouTube chat saying I've got to get across the pond even more now to see if Lesley can help me.
Oh, I work on Zoom, baby. I work on Zoom. I don't even need to be there. Yeah. I'm the Velvet Hammer. I'll get you where you need to go. I'd like to take a shot at it. If you want to contact me through my website, maybe we can work something out.
I'm just going to ask you here to watch the swinging.
Oh, don't do that to me. I'm going to fall out. I'm going to fall out right now.
3.
Okay. I got to go to bed, you miscreants. I've got to go to bed.
All right. I'm sorry, Lesley. We have one last guest.
Okay.
We got Mala.
All right. Hello, Mala.
Hey, Mala.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
There we
go. By the way, you're muted.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I just actually wanted to come out and say hello because I, like you, am a New York girl living in Toronto. Yeah. How weird is that?
Yeah. That is weird.
Right? Yeah. How are you?
Great. Send me your, go through my website. Send me your info. Let's hang out.
I told Katie she's going to have to come and stay with me so then we can come and stalk you.
Oh, fabulous.
We've changed the name of the show to Dangerous Thoughts and Stalkers.
Stalks.
Dangerous Stalks.
Dangerous Stalkers.
Yeah.
Dangerous Stalkers. Yeah.
Did you really just want to say hi to everybody, or do you have a question for her? Just
no,
hello?
I don't. Guys,
well, hello to you, and thank
his cat.
All right.
It won't leave me alone. I'm sorry about that. Look. I every time I toss her to the bed, it's fetch the kitty.
Yeah. Well, it's the Pussy Patrol. You know that.
Yeah. So So Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. I had a blast. I had 20 more questions for you. Hopefully we'll be able to get you back someday soon. Have a good night's sleep. Rest your body, your light soul, your spirit soul, your tethered human avatar that you're hanging out in. Have a great night, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Manu. Thank you, guys. Yeah. It was such a pleasure.
Before we go, we have a sponsor for the first time. We have an actual sponsor.
Hey, look at that.
Barrel One Winery in Ramona.
Yeah.
Barrel One. It's located on Magnolia Avenue in Ramona, California. If you get a chance to come to Ramona, visit me. I'll hang out with you. We'll have a glass of wine at Barrel One. was wonderful. I love it. I go there all the time.
Deliveries and stuff too, right? So if you want
I'll find out if they mail their stuff. I don't know if they mail, but there's a few local stores here in Ramona that carry their wine. It's delicious and it's wonderful, and I love it.
Cool.
There.
And next
week, thank you to Barrel One.
Yes, thank you to Barrel One. Sponsors, how cool. She's sponsored. Next week we have Sonia Agora. She's unapologetically agoraphobic. No, I'm kidding. That's not it. She's unapologetically agorist. Sorry. She's unapologetically agorist, which from what I understand is a different term for a realistic anarchist. It's unfortunately a pathetically small movement. And I'm hoping Sarah can tell us how agorism could work for America, could work for the world, instead of this unbelievably broken system we live in now. Join us next week with Sonia Agora or Agora?
Sonia Agora.
Sonia Agora. She's amazing. I think it's going to be a real fun show. And thank you again to Lesley Mitchell-Clarke and all our guests on Dangerous Thoughts. We'll see you next week.
Take it to them. Ruining motivation to survive. Private side is like the jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue. You need to last in the way. Hey, gorilla hearted. I be in my chest to stay alive. Take it to them. Ruining motivation to survive. Private side is like the jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue. You need to last in the way. Hey, gorilla hearted. I be in my chest to stay alive. Hey.